Alright guys, so welcome back to the channel. Today is episode 4 of the off-season that works, and today we're talking about speaking the language of strength training. But before we jump into that, you're 2 weeks into the program. I hope it's going well for you. I know today's video is going to help you implement it a lot better. Remember, it's not about any magic program or any magic exercises, about how well you're executing them and how hard you're working at them. And today's video will definitely help a lot of that, and definitely help you understand programming and strength training a lot more. But before we go into that, I want to start off this video like I've been starting off the last few and talk a little bit about Gaelic football, different aspects of it, different things I fell in love with in the preparation for it, and give you a better grasp of why I love doing what I do, why I have such a passion for strength training for GAA, and why I love the game so much. So before we start, I'm going to talk about the first team, or the first couple of teams that I saw playing that I was like, okay, wow, they just stood out to me. They made an imprint in my brain. They made me love the game more. I looked at them and I thought, that's the way I'd like to be associated with. That's the type of team I'd like to play with. That's the type of team, maybe not that I'd like to coach because I was so young at the time. I'm talking about when you're 10, 12 years old. Who's the first team you saw where you were like, oh my god, they do things differently? Club team now, because it's easy to look at county teams and the level they're operating at and the stars that are always there no matter what. But who's the first club team? It's a good question to ask yourself. So for me, it was Charlestown. I absolutely can remember so clearly watching them one day. They were playing in town pitch in Claremorris and they scored 20 points. I think it was 20 points to 1-8, and they were in their prime at the time. And I remember my father said to me on the way home from the match, I would have only been about, I'd say, between 9 and 12 or 9 and 13. He said, only a great team will score 20 points. Because it was 20 points, no goals. And it's just stuck with me since, and it's stuck with me through the next few years. And every time I watched them play after that, it was kind of in my head, only a good team scores 20 points. And they just did things during that time that were very different to what was normally done at club football. They played short kickouts before anyone was doing short kickouts. They were renowned for them. They played possession, passing football, like it's all obviously what all the top teams do now, but they were playing possession, passing football when everyone was still playing catch and kick. Not that I'm against catch and kick completely or anything. I think that's a misconception that should never be used anymore, but they were playing possession, smart football, short kickouts, moving the ball around the pace. And when you looked at them, they had this we're better than you that all the top teams have, but it wasn't a cockiness. It's like Ballintober definitely have it now, as do Kerfin. They have this aura of we're a better team than you, we're going to play things on our terms, we're going to play things on our way. Not just off one player, but off the whole panel. All them good teams like that, they have this, they've mastered this humility of we're better than you, we're going to implement our game plan, we're not going to do it in an overly cocky way or arrogant way. Even though the top teams all play very aggressive, they do with this kind of strange humility. Now, humility, that term drives me nuts in a lot of ways. I think people misuse it all the time anymore. But I think you get what I'm talking about when top teams have that aura of we're better than you, but we're not cocky or arrogant or in your face. Another thing that stuck out to me, I was only about 9 years old at the time. I was down in Crossmina, was doing a championship game, or watching a championship game against Claremorris. Crossmina were at their peak at that time. McDonald, Gardner, the Nallans, absolutely savage. And I was only 8 or 9 years old, but I remember watching this team and knowing this team means business. It's amazing what sticks out in your head even as a young kid watching football. That's why mentors and role models in clubs are so important, and they're the backbone of the GAA. But I remember watching them, they did a warm-up afterwards, and people stayed to watch the warm-up. It was like unheard of. I was like, who the fuck did warm-up? Who the fuck did warm-ups back there? But they were warm-down after the game. So they were doing this warm-down after the game and stretching around in a circle and running up and down, what all teams do now. But I'd never seen it done before, just stuck, and they had that aura again. So I think as a style of play, I really liked Charlestown's style of play. Do I think every team should play the exact same way? No, definitely not, because all players, teams, groups, panels are unique. But that style of play stuck out to me. might be an interesting question to ask yourself. Who was the first team you saw at a young age that were like, wow, okay, they look like that's something I want to be part of, something like that with my club. So with that all being said, let's jump into today's video. Alright, so today's video is super important. So many people skip over this and they're left looking at a fucking program sheet, something like this one here I have on my desk in front of me, and they're like, okay, this says this, what does that mean? Sets and reps, what does that mean? Tempo, rest, how long should I take? And they end up asking all these stupid questions. Stupid, but how are they to know? Because they don't speak the language. So we'll say, if you don't speak the language of strength training, you are stupid in strength training terms, and you haven't a clue what you're looking at or what any of the terms mean. You're stupid, you don't speak the language. And that's the way most Gaelic footballers are looking at their program sheet. They're handing out this fucking program, they don't speak the language, and they're like, what do all these exercises mean? What does the sets and reps mean? What does the tempo mean? A piece of paper that the program is written on is worthless to them. Okay, so today's episode, pay attention to it, understand it. It'll help you execute your program better. And that's what it's all about. It's not about magic exercises, it's about how well you can execute a plan, how well you can execute your game plan, and your program sheet is your game plan. So like Charlestown or Croslina, executed their game plan excellently, everyone knew exactly what they're at. With your program, are you executing it properly? Do you understand what the different things mean? Do you understand at the different stages of the game what you should be executing and how you should be doing it? So this will help you do that. So today we'll start off with just the program sheet, the top of the program, okay? So the first one you have the exercise, but before the exercise, just inside that, you have A1 and A2, B1, B2. So what does that mean? A is the first exercise, obviously. If it's A on its own, it's a straight set. If it's an A1, A2, it's a superset. So you go A1, A2, A1, A2 until you have 3 sets of each done. Okay, so same with B1 and B2, obviously. D1, D2, D3, I think on these programs is a triset. So that means you do one, then the next, then the next, then take your break, then go back until you have 3 sets of each done. So 1 and 2 beside the letter means a superset. If it's a letter on its own, it's just a straight set. You do the exercise on its own. I think face pulls on the first program is a straight set, so it's not supersetted with anything. Then the second one, it says week. So week, it goes week and then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So for week 1, you write your weights across the way, and week 2, you write whatever you lifted week 2, 2 sessions per week, 3, and then 4 obviously. Okay, so that's what the week going down, 1, 2, 3, 4, change program on the 4th week. What you lift on the 2 sessions in the 1 week should be very similar if not the same. I wouldn't say go up in weight every session, I'd say go up in weight every week. That's just my preference. Some exercises you'll be able to go up a little faster, some exercises you might have to wait a little slower, but for my preference I like people to go up a little bit in weight in every week. Do 2 sessions with the same weight, then go up a biscuit at a time. So a biscuit is a 1.25 kg plate. The reps and sets is 3 by 12, means 3 sets of 12 reps. That's quite simple, quite straightforward. Everyone's familiar with, okay, exercise reps. That's basically all I have to know. Well, if it changes week to week, the reps, the sets, stuff like that, you definitely need to understand the program that bit better. Now, tempo is lifting speed. 4 letters. I just go 3-0, 1-0 on nearly every exercise. So that would be on your dumbbell bench press. 1, 2, 3, up. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. So that's the 3 and the 1 covered. For this program, keep it nice and simple, nice and controlled. 1, 2, 3, up. 1. That's what we'll be doing for most of the exercises on this program. It's the simplest to follow. Keep control of the weight doesn't control you. Okay? You're doing this and you're going fast on the way down, you're bouncing the reps. Don't do bouncy reps, remember. The weight is controlling you, you're not controlling the weight. And if the weight's controlling you, you're not strong enough to lift it. You're not strong enough to lift it, you're not strength training, you're momentum training, you're using bad technique, you're getting nothing out of your training. Control the weight, no matter how tough the set gets, control the weight. The rest then, I didn't write a rest for the first program because it's lighter weights, it's pretty much, it's pretty much non-stop, and men are going to take their rest anyway. Never take longer than 2 minutes break for a program like this. You don't need any longer than 2 minutes. You do not need it. I would highly recommend you time your rests, you time your sessions. So the next term is eccentrics and concentrics. So the next point. Eccentric is the lowering part of a lift. So on a bench press again, it's 1, 2, 3 is the eccentric, okay? On a chin up, it's 1, 2, 3 on the way down. On a squat, 1, 2, 3 is the eccentric. So on the way down while you're lowering the weight, you're stronger eccentrically than you are concentrically. What the fuck does that mean? So that means that I could load up 150 kg and slow it down for 5 seconds, and I could have good control of it for those 5 seconds. Concentrically is on the way up. Could I lift 150 kg? No. Okay, so you're stronger on the way down than you are on the way up. Now, certain exercises are done really, really well eccentrically. Slow eccentric squats are really important, and hamstring work. It's absolutely crucial that hamstrings are a deaccelerator, that when you're changing direction, eccentric work is really, really important on hamstrings. That's why the Nordic curls, leg curls are such effective exercises. Nice and slow, feel the muscles stretch as you're going down. Okay, so the next term, big one, you're all fucking familiar with, and it wrecks your heads, I'm sure, like it does mine, activation. So all activate anthem means is contracted. So think like a bodybuilder. If you're activating your biceps, all you're doing is contracting it to the shortest possible position and squeezing that as tight as you can. We'll go tricep first actually. So you go tricep, it's in its shortest possible position, squeeze it really tight. There's no weight involved. I can feel my tricep almost burning there now. Okay? Same with your leg, squeeze the hamstring, shortest possible position, contract. That's essentially, that's all a fucking activation drill is contracting your muscle as much as you can. So all the band walks, all this type of stuff. Sure, get some blood into the muscle, warm it up, absolutely, but it's nothing magic and it's nothing new. Bodybuilders have been doing that for decades, activating the muscle before it starts. You do not have to do banded activation before every single exercise you do. For your glutes, you don't have to do activation drills before every leg exercise you do. That's nonsense. Learning how to contract a muscle, yeah, absolutely. Mind-muscle connection. Even for your Gaelic football, you're better off doing compound lifts where you're working more than one muscle at a time. But learning how to contract each muscle individually is a good idea, especially if you're rehabbing an injury. So if you have torn hamstrings, if you're learning how to contract them, isolate them, really squeeze them, that's a very good idea. And physio, I know the physios out there will agree with that. Learn how to contract a muscle without any weight and then start building up strength after it is a really good idea if you've got injured in the past. So activation, if you can just think of contraction, that's basically all it is, okay? And then stretch would be when the muscle's at its lengthened position. Now you can stretch, obviously, something like yoga or something like non-dynamic, just holding static stretches, but I'm not on about that here. I'm no expert on stretching either, but I don't need to be. And you don't need to be either. So when I'm talking about stretching, I'm on about stretching under load. So a stretch under load for the biceps will be all the way, it's out here, and I have a weight in my hand, and it's fully stretched, and then you come back up. That's really good for a muscle as well, to get a muscle in its fully stretched position. When you're doing chest, yeah, you can do a bench press, and you'll feel a stretch there at the bottom, no doubt. You see my pec there, and it's definitely stretched at the bottom. But is it at its fully stretched position? Is it at the extreme? No, it's not. A pec fly will get it to its extreme. You might only have to use 2.5 kg, 5 kg, but if you take it to its fully stretched position under load, it's a magic thing for a lot of muscles, especially for the likes of the hip flexors, the pec minors, the biceps that tend to get very tight and in the shortened range. A muscle that's tight and in the shortened range all the time isn't good. If you can understand those two terms, every single exercise you do has a contraction. Every single exercise you do has a stretch part of the movement as well, even the compound exercises. So make sure you know what you're doing, you know what part of the exercise it is, and if you're struggling to pick up technique in any of the exercises, have a think about, okay, am I struggling in the stretch range or am I struggling in the contraction range? That brings me into my next point, range of motion. So some exercises have a big range of motion. So squats, for me especially with good hip mobility, I can get really down low, huge range of motion, okay? So close grip chin-ups as well, massive range of motion, big stretch at the top and all the way down, big stretch as well. So a full range of motion, split squat is another good example. A full range of motion means you're working the joint through its whole range, as far as the joint can go and back in. So certain exercises don't go full range of motion. So when you're doing a barbell bench press, it's a great exercise for building strength. It's not on this program, it's a great exercise for building strength. You bring it down to the chest. The chest is the limiting factor and it doesn't allow you to take the bar through its full range of motion. You use dumbbells, you get a far bigger range of motion in the joint, okay? Same with wide pull-ups. You do wide pull-ups properly, you can't really get a massive range of motion. You do close grip pull-ups like we were saying, you get a far bigger range of motion. Hex bar squat, great exercise, but the range of motion is very, very short. So as a general rule, if you're doing stuff like hex bars, pull-ups, barbell bench pressing, you better fucking be doing other exercises that take the joint through its full range of motion. If you're only doing exercises that take the joint through half its range of motion, you're asking for trouble, because you go out on the pitch then, you take the joint through to its extremes, through its full range of motion in areas where you haven't practiced in the gym or areas where you're very, very weak, you're going to get injured. It's as simple as that. It's not that complicated. Take your joints to the full range of motion in the gym. So strength and conditioning. Strength and conditioning doesn't mean mobility and activation. It means strength and conditioning. Okay? That's for me and the people I follow and the people I've learned from. That's what strength and conditioning means. Strength and conditioning for the GAA is about being strong and about being in great condition. Conor Callahan, Paddy Durkin, the examples we were using in the first video, are they strong? Have they increased their strength? Absolutely, they've increased their strength and their muscle mass. Are they conditioned? Of course. They're very, very fit, they're very, very lean. That's what strength conditioning is. It is not activation drills, it's not mobility, it's not all these dynamic stretches. Sure, they can be a little bit part of it, but the end goal is they have to be helping you getting stronger and more conditioned, or else it's not strength conditioning. Okay, it's some sort of prehab stuff that is, it might have its place, but it's not strength conditioning. If you want to get stronger and more conditioned for your sport, then it requires muscle, adding weight to the bar, being lean. And of course, the number one priority is to stay injury free. There's no reason you can't get stronger, build muscle, get leaner, and reduce the chance of injuries all into one program. Okay, absolutely no reason you can't do it. And you don't need to be doing a ton of prehab, rehab exercises, band activation drills to achieve that goal either. I'm not a physio, I don't rehab injuries. But if you're not injured, don't be doing prehab and rehab. You don't need it. You can get stronger, dynamically more flexible, more powerful, and less injury prone just by doing strength training, proper strength training alone. And the last term, functional. So what does functional mean? Is that exercise functional? I'll do a video on this. Marky Mark and the functional. Marky Mark and the functional bunch is what me and Keane have always called functional training. So functional means it will work and help you make you stronger in a certain activity. So for us, the activity is playing Gaelic football. Is a squat functional? Will it help you in Gaelic football? Of course it will. If it's executed properly and you're getting stronger at it, is that a functional exercise? Yes. As is like looking over there, farmers walk, sleds. Are they functional? Can they help you in your sport? Yes. This idea that no exercise is functional unless it's on one leg, or unless it's only dumbbell work, or unless you have to be doing it in an unbalanced surface is absolute nonsense. Will it help you be stronger in your sport on the pitch? If the answer is yes, then it's a functional exercise. Don't be complicating everything. Don't be falling for any of those strength and conditioning coaches using absolute jargon to confuse people and making belittling exercises that have been making people strong for hundreds of years. Okay, there's nothing new in strength training. Okay, the human body hasn't changed that much. Sure, sports performance has changed, but we're still look exactly human like we did 2,000 years ago. We don't have all these brand new exercises and movement patterns and all that, and a lot of them are absolute nonsense. The basics are the basics, and you can't beat the basics. They work really, really well. Simple stuff: lunging, squatting, hip hinging, pressing, pulling. That's all you need, and they are all very functional no matter what your sport is. Well, basically, unless it's throwing darts or something. So that's me to finish. I hope I've helped you understand how to speak strength training. All this stuff will help you understand your program better. It'll help you get more out of your program, more importantly, and help you be the best that you can possibly be, which is the aim of this 12-week program. Let's get you to better than you've ever been before, okay? Don't compare yourself to the best of the best at county level. Just be 10, 20, 30% better, stronger, fitter than you were last year. And that's huge, huge success with any off-season. That's an off-season that works. As usual, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. The series is gathering traction, so if you've enjoyed the video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you shared it on Facebook, you liked it, you shared it on your story on Instagram, whatever it might be. But thanks for watching so far. More videos to come.